to a God that understands you. You're being welcomed to a God in whose image you are already made. There are some theologies that would speak about a taintedness, a sinfulness, and so forth. But the fact of the matter is that you already look like God. You already bear his resemblance. You already bear his image. According to the Bible, there is already godliness within you. You're not trying to reach it, but rather you're trying to perhaps have it come to the expression of its fullness. Yours is to recognize the godliness that is within you and to enjoy it, to enjoy its abundance. You are welcomed home by a God who absolutely adores you and wants you to be better and better every day. And so my first point tonight in trying to get into the mind of the Father when he welcomes the Son that was lost is to say to you that you are being welcomed by a Father who understands you, in whose image you are made. The second point that I want to bring to you tonight is that you are being welcomed to a God who knew your ancestors and knows you, and also then will know your descendants and will know the people that come after you, will know the people who've come before you. You're coming into the fullness of self, beloved, in the sense that you're not there to exalt yourself, but rather to enjoy everything that God has planted in your family. There's no promise that God has made to your family that you are not an active participant in for some odd reason, or that you cannot access. If there are promises perhaps that are floating around you, if there are words that have been spoken over your family that are for good, that are for great reasons, and they're not happening, then we may need to speak about realignment and about things that are going on and how we do it. But it's incredibly important that we understand what it means to come to a God that knows us, that when we say that we are being welcomed home, that we would acknowledge that it is God himself that is welcoming us. And he's not just welcoming us, as it were, from the perspective of us being just outsiders that don't have any link or right to be there, but rather we are being welcomed by a God who understands us. We're being welcomed by a God who knows us, who knows the people who've come before us, who knows the promises that he has in store for us, who knows the pitfalls that the people who've come before us have fallen into. And so, because this is the case, he's able to welcome us. But I do also want to say, thirdly, that you're coming to a God who actually forgives. So in welcoming you home, beloved, and in a very short message here tonight, you're coming to a God who actually does forgive. Not the version that human beings have of forgiveness, but rather a true forgiveness that actually says that it forgives you of your worst moments, even when your best intentions have gone wrong. Here you're forgiven for the small things that linger in your heart. Moments where you've disappointed even yourself, moments where you've disappointed others, or moments where your anger has gotten the best of you, or moments where you felt like you should have done something but you did not. Here in this home, you're forgiven for things that are not as clear to everyone else, but rather are only clear to you, and they keep you up at night. You are forgiven for everything. In this home, confession is not only acknowledgement of sin, but acknowledgement of the presence of a forgiver. Because to confess to God is also to assume that he has the power and capacity to forgive you. You can't confess to a God that you don't believe cannot forgive you, unless there is something wrong perhaps with the teaching that you've experienced, where you have to work for God's forgiveness, or you have to work for his acceptance, as it were. But the Bible tells us that all of that is free. The Bible tells us that we need not work for that. And so tonight, as we position ourselves to receive this welcome, to receive this welcome home hug, and to receive this notion of a God that accepts us, we must understand that it's a God that understands us. It's a God in whose image we are made. It's a God who forgives us where we've gone wrong. We need not dwell with the past. We need not sit in the feelings of failure. We need not sit in the issues that we've experienced. But finally, beloved, you're coming to a God who created you, right? And so he created you, and he created the ones who question whether God is real and the ones that are convinced that God is not. You're coming to a God who's created the mind, who's created questions, who's created a sense of curiosity, who's created scholarship, who's created studying, who's created going the extra mile to find out the truth for yourself. God is not scared of the questions that we ask and our seeking hearts. God's wisdom, beloved, is not threatened by our well thought out arguments. The fact that we don't have answers for some of our questions is not proof of God's folly or foolishness or lack in that respect. We're called to question things because God allows us to, and he wants us to. The answers can only be worked out then between you and God. I can't impose my answers on you. I can only share what I've seen so far, but your relationship with God is your relationship with God. And so it's important, beloved, in this moment and in this very short message to remind you that you are welcome in this home, that no one should ever tell you that you've got to do certain things to be received in the house of God, but rather you are a resident there. Tonight, I believe the Holy Spirit is just reminding us that there's absolutely no reason for us to believe that we ought to work for a place that we originally have. We have space in the house of God. We have space in the heart of God. We are welcomed home. We are aptly and fully forgiven. We are completely received and accepted. We are loved. We are completely and utterly allowed to question. We are allowed to ask. We are allowed to say, okay, God, what's going on? We're allowed, and God will continue to give us the answers. Tonight, I'm here to remind you that as you pray, God welcomes you home. That as you ask questions, he welcomes you into the throne room and says, ask, my child, and I'll give you answers. I'm here to remind you that there are some aspects where the answers may take 10 years, but the answers will come. There's some aspects that will take 10 minutes and the answers come. But I'm here to remind you tonight that you are welcome in the house of God. I'm here to remind you that you are welcome in the things of God. There's no one who can take you away from the things that God has in store for you. So it's important, beloved, that we rest in this knowledge, that we rest in the fact that God has our back, that we rest in the fact that God is able to do so much more than what we thought is possible. So may God bless you and may God keep you. I did say it's a short one tonight. May God bring the very best of heaven to you, not just for your sake, but for the sake of those around you, that when you feel welcome in the house of God, when you feel welcome in the purpose of God, when you feel welcome in the things of God, that God would completely move you to another level of acceptance and acknowledgement of him and his duty and his kingdom in your own life, and also acceptance of self and acceptance of the things that God has given us. So may you be blessed, and may you understand that you are welcomed in the house of God. No one can take you away from it. No one can move you from it. This is your home, in as much as it is everyone else's. So may God keep you. May God bless you. I think this was just a reminder for all of us that we are welcome in the house of God.